Alex Ansary here, and welcome to the January 5th, 2017 edition of the Daily Matrix, where I consolidate in a short period of time. It's probably going to be, shorter than an hour today. A lot of news. We have 14 stories that we're going to go over, so you'll notice that I talk about certain topics in depth in some of the podcasts, some of the videos. This particular video, and sometimes it'll be every day, sometimes it'll be every few days, we'll consolidate a lot of information in a short period of time. The links will be down below. So there's a lot of people talking about Donald Trump was right with regards to the terrorism. Of course, years ago, a lot of people would question whether or not these were false flags. Now there's a lot more people buying the official story. Here we have this headline from RT. Foreign intelligence services may be linked to Istanbul nightclub massacre. And that is according to the deputy prime minister in Turkey. So here's RT, though. And we see the influence of Putin over RT, obviously. And we see the connection between Trump and Putin. So on one level, you still see reporting on false flags or the potential that some of these attackers are being aided in some way, shape, or form. So it's like they constantly keep reporting on one aspect of the conspiracy. On the other end, they push the official story, and they push fear of Muslims. And so in doing so, it's almost as if they're conditioning people to believe in the absurd. I've talked about this for years. To adopt mental illness in a way. To see things one way, but also see things another. Like, 9/11 was an inside job. These shootings are a false flag. We got to ban all Muslims. And when they convince people to think and judge others, it's almost as if they're duping the American people and the people of the world to move in a direction that would be very unlucky for them. So this is from RT, and there are always some reports, whether I go over them or not, on this channel because it's so time consuming. Questioning the official story, discussing, intelligence services were investigating that guy like a year before, like with the Orlando shooter and others. And you just see this continuous pattern to where it's so obvious, it's like, is it even worth covering anymore? So, I really want to get that out of the way at the beginning, just to remind you that, even RT is asking some of the fundamental questions that a lot of Americans, a lot of other people around the world have neglected to ask. Now we go to this report from the Christian Truther. Project Sixth Sense, the radical induction of New Age technology set to mix with biology. And I think this is a good thing to cover on the heels of my recent video, which will be uploaded soon. Really a part two, to the recent video, technology replacing our relationships, or women using technology to replace men in some cases, more specifically. And also, this comes on the heels of me reading about the fake disinformation in the New Age, the disinformation about the good Anunnaki. Literally zapping the archons with some sort of a beam death ray. Yes, this is being said, and people are reposting this nonsense. So I covered that in a recent video. Here is this report. Humanity is rapidly changing. And with that change comes the mixing of biology and technology. See, this is the whole change in our genetics that people should be more interested in than what they currently are. The amount of melatonin in one's skin, that's where people are. They should be looking at what's really going on. Scientists and researchers seek to give mankind a new age sixth sense, but the cabal aims to use technology to close the prison doors. The day that technology became witchcraft is the day that humans can feel sound, hear taste, sense movement from miles away. Science and technology can grant the deaf ears and the blind by plugging into technology to sensory receptors within the brain, which allow the brain to process the results. Certain implants that prove the technology and biology can work together to replace certain senses that an individual may be lacking. However, what was unknown until recently was the reality that the brain can also process many other senses outside the traditional five senses. Neuroscientist David Eagleman plans on extending the brain's capability to receive signals, which in turn would allow humans to interact with different wavelengths of life, such as vision in infrared and connecting the brain to the internet. I've often pondered the concept of the brain being connected to the internet in a more direct way. The ideology of feeling the internet brings about the radical transformation of sensory, and a similarity can be uncovered within the workings of witchcraft. And again, a lot of people are really offended by the witchcraft terminology. There really is such a thing as partaking in actions which can be harmful to yourself, others, or your family. As offensive as it might be to hear that word to some, witchcraft. Treating the brain like a plug and play device is the ultimate mind control. During the segment, in the video, in this article, the individual was selecting what stocks to buy, but it was not a conscious decision, rather it was a subconscious. Plugging the internet directly into the subconscious would have a radical psychological effect, given the reality that technology and connectedness have an adverse impact on the mind. Let me pause. I go into that as well in a recent video. A lot of the hysteria and the white genocide hysteria and the Islamic invasion fake news. Internet. Okay, so just imagine the board being plugged into the internet and then people being even more receptive to the types of programming that is being sent out by the establishment. That is chilling. And so you're looking around and you're seeing more people do reviews on the virtual reality headsets. Ironically, one of the first reviews that I saw on that ridiculous thing was by Joe Biggs of InfoWars. Yeah, the guy goes disinformation about ISIS crossing the border to, hey, look at what I got for Christmas. It's a headset. Now, on the topic of this, I have a book. I'm going to grab it now. Maybe you can find it on Amazon. It's called The Archon Conspiracy, and it's by Dave Hunt. And I'm going to go ahead and read the back. And you may be interested in reading this book. In a story with unusual relevance for our time, best-selling author Dave Hunt describes a confrontation between supernatural powers and humanity that could someday be as real as today's headlines. Computer genius Ken Inman's lifelong goal to contact ETs explodes into reality, leaving him face to face with the compelling and deadly archons, also known as the Nine. Top Soviet psychics and CIA researchers risk everything to gain supremacy through this new power, while the Nine promises a new age of international peace and prosperity. But is their benevolent promise all that it appears? In a race against time, nationally acclaimed journalist Carla Bertelli goes behind the scenes to discover a plot more sinister than she could ever imagine. Torn between her love for Ken and her refusal to embrace his faith, Carla is drawn deeper and deeper into a frantic search for truth. In this fast-paced novel filled with intrigue and suspense, Dave dramatizes the reality of spiritual warfare and the real dangers that may be upon us. This was done, oh wow, it was actually published out of Eugene, Oregon, and I believe this is late 80s, early 90s. Scientists offering tips at surviving zombie outbreak. We're going to be reporting on this from the Daily Mail. More predictive programming. Recent videos of mine top off 4 zombie apocalypse drills, literally in Portland. That's right. People being turned into zombies as a result of a dirty bomb. So various causes of said zombie outbreak, you could say, from the decade of drills. Students at this particular university were tasked with calculating the exact amount of time that it would take for a zombie virus to infect every individual on Earth. And notice the other memes that are out there. Would you survive nuclear war? They're getting people ready for a disaster. Even a NASA employee warning of a disaster. And now, of course, more newfound Planet X fears for October of this year. And I've talked about in past videos, they're constantly pushing the October surprise. It was 20... Oh my God, this is actually going to be several years in a row. So you had the panic of October 2013, the panic of October 2015, and the panic of Planet X of 2017. So I'm going to keep you updated on that and the people that are pushing that particular disinformation. So they're getting people thinking about the infection. They're getting students to participate in these, instead of the old days of, you got one train leaving the station at, one time, and you got another train leaving at going this many miles an hour. Which train's going to get to the destination first? No. Now we're going into doing math, calculating the zombie outbreak. 100 days into a zombie outbreak. Does this have anything to do with the first 100 days of Donald Trump? I don't know. But in October last year, researchers were looking at UK citizens were preparing for a zombie apocalypse and where they were going wrong. More than a third of the UK population kept a few essentials, a grab bag, in case of disaster, according to the research. But much of the items wouldn't keep people alive. So I'm going to go into this article a little bit and see if there's any good information we can glean. Well, food and medical supplies and mobile phones were at the top of the list for a survival pack on mobile phones. I've addressed that in the previous. Not many people listed matches or a simple bottle among their essentials. Again, they're looking at the cell phone. They're looking at the apps. Well, my cell phone won't work, but my app will. Professor Lewis, a UK space agency research at the University of Kent, advised that a survival bag should contain a fire-starting kit, water bottle, small knife, rope, and food. Like, you actually have to tell people this. So they write in the report 6 tips to survive the zombie apocalypse. This comes from the neuroscientists. Okay, so don't fight. Zombies wouldn't have the neural responses to care about pain, so unless you can shoot to kill, it would be best to run for it. Keep quiet. Zombies with CDHD would have very little memory and poor concentration, so if you hid, something else would likely capture their attention, keeping you safe. And then they have these comical images that they're using, making really a joke out of the whole thing. Zombies wouldn't be able to recognize faces, so they identify each other by movements and sounds. Distract them. Damage to zombies' cortex would mean they couldn't concentrate and be at the mercy of whoever grabs their attention. Try fireworks. Don't try to reason. Mimic them. And it continues. So this is bad advice, and it is taken away from the real potential of a zombie apocalypse caused by food starvation, caused by a grid meltdown, caused by a solar flare. So this still continues to be a joke. This still continues to be a subject of science fiction, and so few people are actually prepared for shit. That's what we've learned. That's today's report. Now, moving ahead. Truth or Fiction from Global Research, a site that I don't trust 100% because of its over pro-Russia leaning. I'd like to see more website with a non-statist position in general, to where they're against just governments in general, and they're reporting on corruption globally. So when I see headlines from Global Research, there's a little bit of hesitation whether or not it's legitimate, seeing how many predictions have not come true. The headline is, talk grows in U.S. a possible military strike on North Korea. That'd be suicide. And that would bring China into a war. China will stand with North Korea over the U.S., especially with what's going on with Trump. The actions of Trump is going to further divide the world. That's another reason why I'm bringing this podcast back, covering the news. Because even if I only cover it for 30 seconds or a minute, I'm going to cover the build-up to this and where we were on the timeline. It reads, the talk is growing in the U.S. of a possible strike on North Korea. After Kim Jong-un threatened that he's close to testing a long-range missile, apparently capable of hitting the U.S., and the predictive programming. And a few years ago, the predictive programming for Colorado Springs to be hit, showing literally, and they're like, haha, North Korea is so dumb, they can't get the right city. But just that imagery, and then showing that to the American people. This is all building. Trump tweeted, North Korea just stated that it's in the final stages of developing a nuclear weapon capable of reaching parts of the U.S. It won't happen. So, he's responding with arrogance. And, okay, so he is going to be in this leadership position. And his way of doing policy and relating to the people of the world is Twitter. Is being a constant commercial for Twitter. So-and-so tweeted such and such on Twitter. And so many of you have criticized the whole social media thing for years. And then others have for years, only to, well, if Donald Trump does it, well, But going on to Fox News, Obama calls for a seamless transition for the U.S. military to Trump, saying, quote, "We've got to make sure that during this transition period that there is a seamless passing of the baton." He's literally using language, passing the baton, pass the baton. He said it was critical to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that the next president will benefit from the same kind of outstanding advice and service that the people around the table have provided me. Because that's right. Obama was a part of the system before he came in, and it would be agreed that he would go on with certain things. Nothing has changed. This is in plain sight. People can learn a little from this. People really perceive Trump and Obama to be on different sides. Oh, Trump is really going after Obama. Oh, the birther thing. Oh, a very legitimate issue. Oh, Obama the Muslim. Oh, Obama, yeah, he's behind ISIS. Well, not just him. I mean, there's a whole intelligence agency and worldwide behind something. Just blame it on Obama. Yeah, it's only Obama and Hillary. Hillary's going to fall down. Hillary's going to die, folks. Nah, never going to let you forget it. I'm going to bring this up in my arms forever. No, I'm not going to let people forget about this whole Obama hypnosis. And we're living through the day and age, folks, of the Trump psychosis. Okay, let's just keep moving forward. 2016, deadliest year for the West Bank. Moment of silence, recognition for those suffering the West Bank. We see Donald Trump and we see Netanyahu teamed up. They're going to go after UN funding because of whatever's going on with this vote regarding the West Bank. Question for the audience, is the United Nations really all evil? Is there any good to the United Nations? Okay, then what's going on with this Trump and Netanyahu versus the United Nations? Because Trump has no good up his sleeve. But of course this is making, yeah, go get him, United Nations. Well, are they saying that when the United Nations votes to go to war? Is there any good to the United Nations? Because I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about the United Nations, and I believe that there is obvious concern. I've talked about the UN peacekeeping troops accused of rape and how, they try to cover it up. That's corruption. We also have the United Nations kind of positioned to be like one of the only few carrying the dead bodies in Afghanistan. I'm scratching my head going, why aren't regular people doing that? Why should it be like the UN? Why don't regular people seem to care? So does the UN have like maybe a positive side and a dark side, or is it all evil? Well, then if it's all evil, why are you, or how can anyone be for any wars that the United Nations has authorized, and they have, and conflicts, and the UN's role and other things? Really makes you wonder, because a lot of people that have come up with some of the really extreme conspiracies have led people astray. We think of Alex Jones, and he talks about depopulation and endgame, and now we actually have a real depopulation agenda in the Middle East, and they're promoting it. So these are things that I'm going to bring to your attention. Now we go to Bloomberg. Chinese media warns Trump of big sticks. Big sticks. A big stick with what? A nail at the end of it? If he seeks a trade war. Now, I think this is a pretty big statement. I said things would start out nice and sweet, and then things would get nasty. Maybe even a little violent. Real quick. So, we are going to keep you up to date on this. Chinese state media warned Trump he'll be met with big sticks if he tries to ignite a trade war. Do you know how people respond to this in the forums? In the comments on Facebook, on the pages where articles, well, fuck those Chinese. They eat dogs. They respond by talking shit. They don't think, oh, China owns a lot of it. Well, wait a minute. Maybe we went into debt to China for a reason. Maybe that's where the conspiracy is. Not the fake Islamic invasion, but no, they're not ready yet. They still don't get it. They still don't get it. They still won't listen. Donald Trump has been selected to play out a role. A physical war could come out of a currency war. By the way, I always thought there'd be a day and time to where the news reporting that I do would be more received than it was in the past, because this stuff is coming sooner than later. In particular, things that I've warned about for years and years and years. The latest salvo from the Chinese media is following the comments of Pete Navarro and Irvine economics professor and critic of China's trade practices, who Trump named to head a newly formed White House National Trade Council. Those choices, plus billionaire Wilbur Ross, the nominee for Commerce Secretary, will form a, quote, iron curtain of protectionism in Trump's economic and trade team. I'm not... shouldn't even have to say this. I've talked about stuff like this for years, being a building issue. And so just because Trump has been selected to be the only person, kind of like Ron Paul, to be talking about certain things while the others, just are like frothing at the mouth, Trump seems to be the rational one. Well, he wants to bring back jobs. You can get up on stage, you can say China, 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 China. You can also omit the reality of our government being in bed with China. So it's not an us versus them. There is no us versus them. We are already entwined with China. Trump is walking into an administration that is already intertwined with China in ways that have never truly been revealed to the American people or the people of China. Although this is commonly known, and people go, don't they own us anyways? And they just shrug off the possibility of a physical war in which Americans are brought into some sort of a new form of high-tech slavery. And it's all possible, the way that we're moving, the way technology is moving, what they're doing to our economy, the rise of China, China's monopoly on the rare earth minerals, their military edge. They have a military edge. Trump is walking into a situation and he's going to throw gasoline on a fire that could be stamped out. But it really, possibly not at this point, because this is a long-term plan. That's why Russia and China have been doing major war game drills, especially since 9/11, because they themselves at the highest levels have known that a day is going to come in the post-2020s in which they will be going to war in a physical sense against the West. What you're seeing now with China and their aircraft carrier, it's all part of that. It's building, and it's building. The article reads, the 3 share Trump anti-globalization beliefs seem unlikely to keep building the current trade order. According to a report that's cited in this, official media from China issued other recent warnings after the announcement about Navarro, saying he doesn't understand trade and will damage relations. An editorial in the state-run China Daily accused Navarro of anti-China alarmism. So for those of you saying, well, wait a minute, he hasn't even got in yet, you're looking at this from the wrong perspective. All of this is being planned. Not only in Trump's appointments or appointees or cabinet members, but the response from the world, because they're playing their violin to the literal tune of a violin. Or they're literally playing to the tune of the script. And during certain parts of the timeline, certain things will happen. And a couple years may pass. And because a lot of people aren't thinking long term, and their minds are going from, okay, now things are good in government. No, things are bad in government. No, things are good now. No, things are bad now. Actually, they've actually been corrupt for a long, long time. Nothing's changed. Don't act like it has. And don't act like things weren't corrupt the last 8 years. For those that are Obama fans, we've been dealing with, as Obama says himself, a orderly, polite, peaceful passing of the baton. There was also another report regarding Trump has filled his trade team with China hawks. President Trump tapped Robert Lighthizer. I'll come back to that last name some other time with a proper pronunciation, as his choice for U.S. Trade Representative. He was the deputy U.S. Trade Representative under Reagan, who has been a longtime critic of Chinese practices. So the U.S. is like all of a sudden now just going to respond to agreements, corrupt agreements between China and the United States, things that have hurt us, things that have benefited China. But is it set up to be done in such a way to where things move very, very quick? And Trump literally is the figure that takes us there. Instead of us, incrementally getting more dependent and self-sufficient economically and building jobs, doing something that is so rash, so quick that it leads to war. Here we have from Yahoo News, China chides Trump for his Twitter habit, saying diplomacy isn't a child's game. So all of this is increasing. China is one of Trump's preferred targets. In several tweets since the election, he struck out at Beijing on issues from trade to Taiwan's sovereignty to the South China Sea and North Korea. And Putin and China are very, very allied in very close ways, massive war game drills. Don't think that Putin is going to side with, in some sort of childish, amateur commentary on the current geopolitical situation. That's not how it's going to go down. They've spent billions building their SCO. If you haven't watched the war game drills, you can find coverage on YouTube. There are hundreds of videos, and now they're getting bigger and bigger, and with live fire. This isn't a joke. This isn't some sort of this isn't an accident. You will not see Putin side with Trump over China. A lot of people aren't ready for what's to come, and that's the point. It's my goal to awaken as many of you as possible, and if there's a way that you can use some of this information, and there's a lot of different things that I'm interested in and things that I put out there on this channel, things other than the news, information I think other people can use, we should work to help people around the world see what's going on with this coming Third World War. With that, we're going to take a quick break. I'm Alex Ansary. It is January 5th, 2017. We'll be back in a few. And welcome back to part 2 of our Daily Matrix podcast. I'm Alex Ansary. I want to thank David for his $5 donation after yesterday's show. An invitation for listeners to be part of the few select listeners supporting just a few dollars per month on a regular basis. Several ways you can donate. alexansary.tv/donate, or just type in my email. All that info is down in the description for my PayPal account. There's also Patron as well if you don't have PayPal. So, they have made it easier than ever for people to contribute outside of PayPal. Those are the ways in which you can do so. Continuing on, We talk about Donald Trump and the economy. There are positive reports regarding Bitcoin, regarding the stock market, and then we see things like this. Macy sheds 10,000 jobs after Trump feud. And I'm seeing a lot of I'm seeing a lot of reports in the media, especially those outlets that are loyalists to Trump, turn things or reword things, spin things to make things political. And I'm no stranger, you're no stranger to stories about corporations that have been closing their doors because of problems with the economy. This has actually been increasing since 2008 and 2009. So before I even get to reading the article, when I read this from WorldNet Daily, Macy sheds 10,000 jobs after Trump feud. I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of this. In the battle of Macy's versus Trump, it appears the clear loser is Macy's. On Wednesday, the retailer announced its disappointing holiday sales, prompting its stock to drop more than 9%. The company also released the locations of 68 of the 100 stores it plans to close, with more than 10,000 jobs reportedly being eliminated. I'm looking for, because I haven't looked at the background information, I don't really care enough about Macy's or Donald Trump to really give a shit about any feud between a corporate conglomerate and Donald Trump. Literally, seriously. There's other things on my radar. But there is some sort of a feud where Trump is saying that they support illegal immigration. When I think about Macy's, and when I go into places like that, or Myron Frank as it was called in Portland, illegal immigrants working there, it's not exactly what comes to mind. I just think we're constantly in this environment where it's like, fight, fight, fight. And when we go to the next one, Macy's sets up final clearance sale for Portland store. And I am also covering things in Portland because I don't really cover things where I live because there's nothing really going on. I moved in the middle of nowhere. But Portland is a city in which I am somewhat interested in the direction that it's going to go in economically, earthquakes. I was born there. I think it's a microcosm for the macro. So I will often go and bring up local stories regarding Portland. So Macy's began its long goodbye to downtown Portland next week with clearance sales that could extend into April. The Cincinnati-based retailer sold the 5 floors that housed the department store to a California-based real estate investment group for $54 million last year. Okay, so as I go into this article, I don't see any reference to Donald Trump. So there isn't really any connection between Donald Trump and Macy's problems. Macy's problems are their own or the result of the economy. So it's like people find a way to spin stuff, like fight, fight, fight. And also, you'll see people ridiculed that are prominent if they don't get on board the humping of the Trump. And I don't recall people doing that exactly if they didn't get beyond or behind the Obama administration. Some people called critics of Obama racist. They didn't all do that. They didn't all call critics of Obama racist. Most Trump supporters will call you a Clinton supporter, however, without facts and without any evidence that you in fact voted for Clinton. The actions of Donald Trump have actually been very detrimental. We'll talk about the assault, which is a top story in just a moment. But people shouldn't, even if they support Donald Trump, be the bigger person. Let's say you believe that Donald Trump is the lesser of all the evils. Fine. Don't act like the worst of the worst. Because to say that there aren't Trump supporters that are screaming about white genocide, that are screaming, well, if you don't like it, leave. I mean, as I said yesterday, it's completely authoritarian, totalitarian. And a lot of people saw Trump as a authoritarian, archon-like character before he was even elected. This wasn't difficult to see. It was the way that he was talking to the people. Forget about Hillary and forget about Obama. It was the way that he was shouting at the people. For me, it's like, wait a minute. This guy is programming these people to be shouted at, and you're going to like it. Get up. Get him out of here. Get up. Get him out of here. What was that all about? And I was thinking, oh my God, someone can literally make like a video that just goes from one situation and a few others. But if you add it all, it really looks scripted. On the part of Trump, on the part of the people, I don't believe so. It's easy to get people angry. And that's really, if you think about it, that's really the job of these presidential candidates, to absorb your anger and your hope. It's not really about them. It's not really about them. So if you send them your blind hate and your anger and rage against the machine and your love, doesn't matter. It's a redirect of energy. There are things more important to be angry about. There were people that helped Obama get into power. But see, they made it about Obama. And the left is making it about Trump. I've actually heard some of you in the comment section say there are actual links between George Soros and Donald Trump. So bring that to my attention, those links, if you're listening now. And I will cover that in the near future. So Boulder in Colorado is set to become a sanctuary city to defy Trump. And the way that Breitbart words it is defy Trump. And some of these have already been sanctuary cities to begin with. There's a lot of strong opinions about that. But again, it's about people doing what they've been doing for years, not so much about insulting Trump supporters. You know, and having a war with the government. There's a lot of people talk about having a war with Obama's government. And I was like, you know what? I don't support him. This is a new world order. Steer clear of the Civil War talk. The divide and conquer. Because that seems to be the plan. And I watched how Alex Jones, for example, Obama Deception, I used to promote that movie and hand it around town, and realized he was doing that because it was politically profitable. And it's been profitable for a lot of people on Google. You know, just criticize Obama and then get behind the Trump train. And then act like you're being persecuted for getting behind the Trump train. When in reality, Google and Facebook is not against you. If you look a little deeper at Zuckerberg, see that Facebook has promoted fake news. Not the fake news that you're thinking about. I'm talking about actual fake news some of you have never even seen, but I have. Where it's like a fake website, not like The Onion where it's obvious humor, but like a real website where it's like, they literally are coming and they're raping in this town, in America, exaggerated fake stories based on alleged things that have happened in Europe, saying that it's happening now here in America, and it's not actually happening. So people are literally, we talked about technology earlier, they have a false sense of reality from the fake news that Facebook has promoted. And Facebook has used data that it's gathered about you and your interests and your likes to figure out what type of fake news to hit you with. And so for those conspiracy, those say they want independence, they've been hit with a certain kind of propaganda. Those people are your enemy. And this person is your savior. And I'll tell you what, when you're dealing with people that aren't really intuitive, when you're dealing with just average human beings, works every time. So what you're seeing here with this reference to Boulder, a town I actually drove through, thought about stopping and didn't stop, just kept going. I can't handle big crowds, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of cities, whether they be right or left. I guess a lot of the major cities are believed to be left, but I haven't found more open-minded people in. Now I'm in a rural red state area, for those that don't know, living off the grid on a hill. In isolation, if you will. And I'd rather be alone and stuck in a snowstorm, if you will, than stuck in traffic, like one meme I saw on Facebook, which is good. I'd rather be stuck here, than feeling stuck in the city. And there's a lot of people out there and it's for a lot of spiritual reasons as well. It's not just one thing. But I've been trying to educate people that are finding these podcasts that the left is not as open as you think or as you say. Being someone that moved away from Portland, Oregon, a lot of you have really played up this whole, the left women are really open and loving and this, that, and the other, and being someone of mixed race, you're making all these wild claims, maybe not you specifically, the person listening, but a lot of others, and as I've said in rants and other videos, that is not the case. I think that Americans don't really know other Americans very well. It's very unfortunate, and I think they should work on that instead of passing so much judgment against people around the world. Okay, so moving on to Israel. They have a flying car We see things, like straight out of Blade Runner. We hear about the self-driving cars, and sometimes they crash, and the Google cars. Well, let's say flying car passenger drone, and it's moving closer to delivery. And this is from Reuters. After 15 years of development, an Israeli tech firm is optimistic it'll get its money for the passenger-carrying drone off the ground into the market by 2020. Developers Urban Aeronautics believes the dark green drone, which uses internal rotors rather than helicopter propellers, could evacuate people from hostile environments and or to allow military forces safe access. So yeah, military application. We see a lot of things also in Israel technology that's surpassed U.S. technology. Then they have the dome, artificial intelligence, literally missile defense, protecting Israeli infrastructure with billions of dollars in U.S. aid. A lot of people out there that support the current president-elect have said that they've been against Israel or Zionism at the same time. So, there's a little bit of entertainment in this. It's not really so funny since people continue to die, but there are people for years that have said that they stand against Zionism or Israel, but more specifically Zionism. And when we look closer at Donald Trump and Netanyahu, okay, so Netanyahu's not a Zionist, is that it? Was he a Zionist a few years ago, but he's not now? Okay, what's going on with this picture? And so what do those that are the loyalists to Trump actually say with regards to this? They really don't really say anything. Well, the radical terrorists are coming to get him. He hasn't got an office yet. Those aren't his World Cabinet picks all fucking show. They gotta kill him. They gotta kill him. JFK. It doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really go anywhere. Now, it's unfortunate, the top story, Facebook live stream of torture, 4 arrested, hate crimes. They beat up a disabled white man. Horrible things were said. I'm not even going to watch the video. Apparently it was very brutal. He was beaten in a corner. His mouth had duct tape put over it. Over the course of a half hour, his attackers cut the sleeves of his sweatshirt, cut his hair with a knife. See, things like this are even going to happen to women. And yet, I want to keep this a news show, not go on a long rant. I'm warning Americans about this divide. And instead, they choose to call me a leftist. Instead of, no, I'm warning you that Donald Trump has set you up. And it doesn't excuse the actions of this. It's that this is the plan. No, this is the plan. This is why Donald Trump was selected, to create this type of animosity and others, to get us into a war. And so these people are being programmed by the corporate media as well, when they're being told, that Trump supporters are racist and all those other things. Well, that same corporate media really isn't the enemy of Donald Trump. And at some point, you need to figure this out. The same media that you think hates Trump does not hate Trump. And this will be shown. I will document this. I will document this. I will document this. You said the media hated Donald Trump. You said the media hated, well, hypothetically, if you're that person that said that. I know a lot of you did not say that. Okay, so the media is going to show you things happening to not only those that are like the called the radical left, but the Trump supporters. They're doing a lot of this now. They're amping up the attacks on the Trump supporters, the coverage of this. And you're even seeing social justice warrior theology from Trump supporters. Oh, you must have voted for Clinton. You're a leftist. You're a libtard. You're probably in a van in Oregon. I've heard it all, man. Like hundreds of different variants. Social justice warrior taunting in my direction. Calling me things that I am not. Like, that's racist. That's a Clinton supporter. That's a libtard. Same tone, same attitude. Both the right and the left in this country will not fess up to their own short-sightedness and their own arrogance. They ought to have a convention called "We All Disowned Alex Ansary." They can play that music. Dun 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 dun. Whoa! Celebrate! Alex Naller's off the grid. Yo! No longer bullhorning in our town. Dun 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 dun. That kind of shit. So, during the video, the attackers, they're talking about white people, they're talking about Donald Trump. Listen, I have seen black street preachers talking about killing white baby, snatching the white baby from the white mother's arms. This is horrible. This is the Archon mind control coming at white people from the other side. That's why I talk about things in the Archon podcast series, the illusions of separation, the race war theology, wherever it comes from and wherever it goes. All of it is wrong. All of it. All of it. You don't respond with hate with hate. That is the Archon blueprint. You see people like Paul Joseph Watson, Alex Jones, and others. They're not responding with hate with hate. They're putting out hate at people that did nothing to them. And they're demonizing them, showing they're with the New World Order. They're with the Albert Pike World War III blueprint. So we read stories and people feel like victims. They're like, oh my God, they're coming after Trump people. And in this case, let's get literal with it. They did it to someone that was mentally ill. And I will say that it's not using good judgment in general to be running around bad areas or certain things flaunting your Trump sticker, because you are going to be made a target by the media. And Donald Trump won't help you. Donald Trump has put up an image of, we're going to have a police state. That police state will not protect you. The police state is coming. The Patriot Act is going nowhere. More conflicts are coming in the Middle East. He said himself, we're going after the barbarians. He told you what he planned to do, but it's not going to make America great. But in a way, he told a fair amount of truth in his midsummer RNC speech, which I talked about with Kyle Reardon. We talked about what he really said for a full hour. So there's going to be a backlash against not only Trump supporters, there's going to be a backlash against this country, and it's going to also come through foreign governments like China and Russia. What disappoints me is that I've warned about certain things and it seems that no one remembers, and I don't feel that people will remember my warnings when we see Russia and China make a stand and turn against Donald Trump. Well, in particular, Russia. And I think when you see that happen, that's going to be a moment in time where you need to get out of Dodge. Once you see the Chinese-Russian alliance come out and open up its Cobra hood, and I don't know whether or not you're even going to get that warning, or if it's going to come with full surprise. It can come with a complete surprise. Everybody just kicking back, hands down the pants, Al Bundy style, the Super Bowl on TV, and people going, Trump, 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 as they hump their couch. Okay, it could literally be something like that. And then boom, lights out. Days later, the invasion begins. But I've always felt that the United States would do something that would generate that type of counter-response first. Maybe locking up a great deal of people, maybe killing millions of people. But see, they've already been killing millions of people. So maybe something new. Maybe it would be an attack on Iran, maybe North Korea, we just don't know. But something that Trump initiates and then the world acts like it's a big surprise. Like Putin, I didn't say you could do that. Now you cross the line. Whereas before, everybody thought they were buddy-buddy. Oh, no, they're going to change the world. You have the New Agers saying that Putin is an ascended master. He's a walk-in. And Trump, the Galactic Brotherhood of Light. And they're not realizing if the New Agers are telling you everything is right, and they've been wrong literally 180 all these years, then you probably ought to be concerned that this is probably one of the most significant shifts and moves towards global government, but specifically a stage-managed third world war that will take us to the next level of the control grid. You have a lot of people also that say that they are not for hate crimes because they don't want those hate crimes to be used against them. Here we have the Washington Post. Authorities in Chicago have charged 4 people with hate crimes Thursday, following the disturbing video that shows them shouting obscenities about Donald Trump and white people while abusing a man authorities say has mental health problems. So I've talked to Americans, but Americans are just white Americans. Americans are Americans in general about this threat that I feel we face. And that's why I seek to reach the women of this country. There is danger coming in your lifetime. And they are using and will use the actions of your misleaders against you. If you don't vote, at least you're not co-signing their bullshit and you're not going to end up on some other weird list that you voted for the president. Do you want to be on a list that you voted for this president or any president? If in fact there's going to be some sort of data dump and there's going to be some crazy things, maybe you don't worry about those things. You know, maybe just Dances with the Stars is all that's But I know the people that listen to this show, a lot of you are aware. But see, the things that I just said relate to a lot of people. They're just more interested in the football game and the colors. And so in doing so, do they put themselves in harm's way? How about their family? How about their daughters? Are they arrogant? Are they actually prepared? I've actually heard that gun sales have actually gone down. There's like some sort of, oh, well, it's Trump. He's not going to come after our guns. That's going to be interesting. You see where Donald Trump and the Second Amendment's going to go. May take a little bit longer. Tell you what, Donald Trump is no friend of the truther community, and that will be proven to be a fact. But the healing between us in the quote-unquote alternative media will not happen until I get some serious apologies from others. Instead, I'm just going to continue to move on in my exodus from the alternative media, expanding into the free media, and not associating with or even arguing with, although I will talk about them and I will expose them, but those co-opted members of the alternative media I have nothing to do with. That's why, I'm not opposed to having the show syndicated, but how many networks in the alternative media are actually seeing reality as it is? Let me know. How many shows? Of course there are a few, but how many in your opinion? I would be curious to know. And honestly, once in a while, I'd like to listen to something fresh, not just William Cooper. Not a big fan of him. The guy also put out fake predictions. But the reality is, you actually have to go back years to hear someone talk about certain things. Can you imagine the type of shit that they would be saying to William Cooper if he wasn't on board the Trump train? Leftist this, leftist that. He was saying, if you're not a full-on Anglo-Saxon in the New World Order, you're dead. And while people are saying, no, it's white genocide, we would look at the people actually being bombed back to the Stone Age, it isn't white people. And you need to end with that bullshit, because that's not the case. They're literally removing millions of people from the planet. And they bomb those people, then the elites turn you against them as they flood your communities with a few people for a few years. Now you're ready. You're screaming for blood. And a lot of you have not actually had family members raped by Muslims. You live in an artificial matrix to where most of your news feed on Facebook, with Zucky's help, helping Trump, the opposite of what most people believe. And so you constantly are bombarded with news that isn't real to encourage you to hate, which does what? It helps those that want to conquer Americans. It helps those that want to make slaves out of little young white girls and sell them on the black market because of the darkness that's coming and emanating out of this country and military and rulers. What we should do is repent of our actions if we've ever supported rulers or misleaders who have killed. How many Obama voters have repented for supporting a man that in fact has helped murder many innocent Muslims? Instead, they stayed true to their faith and they defended that man until the very end. And the Obama critics prefer to just simply call him a Muslim who may not be American than address the people that Obama was killing to begin with. This is what you call mental insanity. Oh yeah, just call Obama a Muslim. Don't address the fact that he's killing Muslims. Yes, this is brilliant. You're certainly a society that's going to last a long, long time. Some things you can't put back together again. It was said about Humpty Dumpty. It could be said about this. So when you see headlines like this that make you angry, Donald Trump didn't win because of economic anxiety. It was indeed racism and study. Racism and sexism, new study. That's there to add into the divide from the University of Massachusetts and others. And then you see mainstream, big-time publications put this out. They're maintaining a huge divide in this country. And what is getting done to actually look at corruption? And are people being appreciated for staying true to their independent roots? Well, I am one of those individuals. You know the answer to that. Now, there's a lot more stuff regarding space. We'll talk more about Elon Musk in future podcasts. For now, physicist predicts Cassini will find alien life in 2017. And so a physicist out of London believes that while multiple projects are searching for alien life, there is a strong possibility that the front runners in the race, including SETI, or Mars missions aren't going to be the ones who announce the breakthrough. Furthermore, contrary to what UFO and alien enthusiasts may believe, disclosure of alien life will not come through governments either. This man believes that alien life proof will be found through missions sent out to Jupiter or Saturn. More specifically, from one of the moons of Jupiter. Yeah, I already said that, or Saturn. Reports in local media in the UK reveal that Foster is of the opinion that even though there could be signals of life from faraway stars or biosignatures detected on exoplanets, the most likely candidates to reveal signs of alien life are the moons of those planets. Okay. So we covered most of the news, but continuing on with that point. So we're being prepped. We also read constantly about Elon Musk, and now he's linked in with Donald Trump, and we're going to see some major changes taking place as they literally tell us that we're going to be able to go off planet in the next 10 years. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the top story, right, of where we are in this century. These potential fake promises of colonization on Mars and Moon, which in reality could be a cover for something else, and they seem to be timing this launch to go off to other planets during this period in which we could very likely see World War III, to where a lot of the world's governments are prepared for this conflict. So I'm going to keep you up to date from here on out on these developments with these podcasts, consulting a lot of news and information. If you want to support this particular show, you can do that at alexansary.tv or donate over at Patreon. The links are down below in the show description. In addition, the links to actually read the stories that I mentioned during this newscast can be found below as well. I'm Alex Ansary. Until next time, reminding you that the path to the ultimate truth still lies within.